So we continue with transpiration, and we just understood the internal and external factors affecting the transpiration of the in a plant. So we understood that external factors were intensity of sunlight, temperature, velocity of the wind, humidity, carbon dioxide present in the air, and the atmospheric pressure. Where the internal factor was only one, and that was the amount of wet water present in the plant. And accordingly, you can see that there will be different kind of adaptations which will be will be given by a plant. So plant is going to have certain adaptations of their own, so that they can reduce the rate of evaporation in them. So this is the adaptation. What are they? Many plants, especially those which grow in the dry climate, have evolved a variety of permanent adaptation to curtail transpiration. Some of these adaptations are as follows. First one is sunken stomata. Stomata means the stomata is not in this particular part directly over here, but it is deeper inside. It's like this. It is over here. Okay, thoda andar ke side pe. That is the sunken stomata. The stomata have maybe sunken as covered by hair, as in case of nerium. They are given the example over here, the figure over there. Next is fewer stomata. I told you that it will be having 1000 to 10,000 stomata in 1 centimeter square. But some plants will have a lesser number of stomata. So the number of stomata may be reduced. That is fewer stomata. Third one is narrow leaves. Now, if you decrease the size of the leaf, automatically the stomata will decrease. That's why the leaves will be narrower. Narrower the leaves, the lesser will be the stomata and lesser will be the transpiration. Fourth is reduce exposed surface area. So in some cases the leaf is such that it is always in the form of a rolled up thing. It will be rolled up. ऐसे क्या रहेगा कि वो completely distant ऐसे नहीं है. वो थोड़ा rolled up जैसे रहेंगे. जैसे क्या कि the exposed surface area is automatically reduced. So it's always in the rolled up condition. So the stomata is always inside over here, so that it is not allowing the transpiration to take place. So in some cases leaf may get waxy, rolled or folded to reduce exposed surface. Okay, so that is reduce exposed surface area by waxing, waxy coating on the top and bottom, rolled or folded. Next is loss of leaves. There are no leaves at all. There are no leaves. So leaves ही नहीं है तो क्या होगा? Automatically there is no transpiration from the stomata. So that is, in some cases leaves may be dropped or may be absent or change into spine. As in most cacti. So most of the cactus there is no leaves, that is just the thorns which are there, the spines. So that is no leaves, so no stomatal transpiration. Next is thick cuticle. The leaves may be covered by thick cuticle like in banyan tree or most evergreen trees. The most evergreen tree have got a thicker cuticle. The leaves are slightly thicker than the normal. So that is a thicker cuticle which is going to help in the transpiration. Reduction in the transpiration. So these were the adaptations which will help in the reduction in transpiration. Now we see that how is transpiration significant for the plant. So how is transpiration going to help the plant? So what are the main significance of transpiration? Transpiration has great significance for the plants. Its main advantages are cooling, creating suction effect force, and distributing water. So there are three main functions of transpiration. Transpiration not only gives you that okay chalo theek hai transpiration ho raha hai, pani kar ja raha hai. That is not the only way. It is not just evaporation, it is going to help the plants in three ways. One is giving a cooling effect. The second one is creating a suction force, so the water will be pulled upwards, and the third one is distributing water to the different parts of the plant. So we see the first one, cooling effect. Evaporation reduces temperature of the leaf surface, therefore transpiration is useful to plant on hot sunny day. At intense heat the enzymes are destroyed. So you can see that in a hot sunny day the enzymes of the plant will get destroyed, and accordingly the photosynthesis will not take place, because the enzyme which causes photosynthesis will get destroyed at a higher temperature. So to reduce the temperature, transpiration is going to give the evaporation, and the evaporation, as we know, always causes cooling. Hence the leaf is going to be cooled, and hence the enzyme are going to be protected and given a particular temperature as required for the plant. So accordingly it gives a cooling effect to the leaves and the plant. Second is suction force. The transpiration helps in the ascent of the sap by producing a suction force acting from the top of the plant. So normally all the forces are from the bottom. You can see all the absorption and all was from the bottom and is pushing it upwards. This is the only force from the top. It is pulling the water upwards. So transpiration causes a suction force which is pulling the water upwards and helps in the ascent of the sap. Evaporation from the leaves concentrates cell sap and increases the osmotic pressure. See, as soon as the water evaporates from the upper part of the leaf, there is going to be a cell concentration over here, that is the water present in the cell sap is going to decrease and causes an osmotic pressure to take in water from the lower part. So that's how evaporation of the leaves concentrates cell sap and increases the osmotic pressure. This draws water from the cells at the lower level in a sequential manner and hence ascent of the sap takes place. So ये ड्राई हुआ तो इसने इधर से वाटर खींचा, इसने इधर से खींचा, फिर इसने इधर से खींचा, इसके इधर से खींचा, ऐसे करते करते it is trying to draw the water upwards due to the difference in the sap concentration. And finally favors absorption of water from the soil by the roots. So accordingly, this thing also helps the absorption of the water by the roots. So that is the suction force which is going to be caused. Now figure represents the transpiration stream. So they have given you a transpiration stream that the evaporation of water takes place and accordingly the water is entering inside the roots. So that is the transpiration stream what they are given over here. As the water evaporates from the leaves, the suction force is developed at the top of the plant, drawing more water up through the stem and making the roots absorb more of it from the soil. So this is how the transpiration pull is going to be causing the suction force for the roots to absorb more amount of water from the soil. So that was about the transpiration. And then the third and the most important significance, or the next important significance of the transpiration is distribution of water and mineral salts. Since leaves are present at the tip of all the branches and twigs, transpiration from these substances tend to draw water towards them and thus helps in the distribution of water throughout the plant body. Higher the rate of transpiration, greater the rate of absorption of water and solutes from the soil. So we can see that if the transpiration would have not been taking place, then there would not be drawing of the water inside the plant and then there will be lack of minerals inside the plant. But due to the evaporation of the water from the plants, from the aerial parts, that's why there's a transpiration pull and accordingly the roots are taking in more water. More water taken in by the roots mean more minerals taken in by the roots and accordingly the water and the minerals are transmitted to the uppermost part of the plant to the leaves. So that is about transpiration. Now here it is one particular kind of a thing, that is transpiration an excretory product in the plants? So no, it is not an excretory product. Plants giving out water as transpiration is not its excretion because there are no harmful impurities present in the plant which are given out during transpiration. Transpiration doesn't give out any kind of compounds which are not required by the plant or needs to be thrown away by the plant. So that's why transpiration cannot be called an excretory product. So it is not appropriate to relate transpiration of excretion or elimination of excess water. Excretion, wherever it occurs, is a deliberate active process carried out by the organism to get rid of unwanted and metabolic wastes substances. So here there is no unwanted metabolic waste or substances which is required to be given out by the plant. It is just giving out the water in the form of evaporation of the water. So that's why you cannot compare the transpiration with excretion. But yes, we can compare the evaporation and transpiration very easily. You can see evaporation is the loss of water from the surface of the water bodies in the form of vapor. So whenever the water from the surface of the water is going to get converted into water vapor, that is evaporation, whereas transpiration is the loss of water from the form of vapors from the aerial parts of the plant. Evaporation is a physical change controlled by the temperature and humidity of the atmosphere. Yes, transpiration is a vital and partly a physical process controlled by internal and external factors. Evaporation is a fast process, whereas transpiration is a slow process. So that is about the differentiation between evaporation and transpiration. Now we come to the next part, and that is transpiration. अगर बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाए, if the water content in the plant becomes too much, then and the condensation, instead of water vapor, we are getting a condensation of the water on the leaf itself. Then we call it as a new kind of a mechanism, that is guttation. So let's see about guttation and bleeding from the plants. Direct loss of water by plants, that is guttation and bleeding. So when the water is given out by the plant directly, okay, the plant just gives out that water directly, not in the form of vapors, not in the form of water vapor as transpiration, but directly water droplet ही अगर बाहर निकलता, then we call it as either guttation or bleeding. So what is guttation and bleeding? Let's see this thing. Some plants lose water directly, that is in liquid form and not as water vapor. It occurs in two ways, guttation and bleeding. Guttation, that is pour out or two drops. The leaves of certain plants exhibit droplets of water along their margins in the morning. This particularly happens in plants growing in warm, humid conditions. A humid environment hampers transpiration while the roots continue to absorb water from the soil. So whenever the condition is such that the outside temperature is such that it is cold, it is quite cold, and it is quite humid also, and due to the humidity the transpiration is not taking place. The soil is already having too much of water, so there is a good amount of water inlet into the plants. In such a case, the plants का जो leaves में the margins, the outer margins of the leaves में there will be condensation of the water and it will drop out as a droplet of water, which is nothing but guttation. So when the plant loses its water in the form of droplets to the margins of the leaf, then it is called as guttation. So of course it will be the humid environment hampers the transpiration while roots continue to absorb water, and this builds up a big hydrostatic pressure within the plant and forces out the excess water directly from the tips of the veins in the leaf. So whenever the humid climate, when the humidity is very high, it is going to hamper the transpiration, and obviously where the transpiration is being blocked by the humidity outside, there it will require, there will be too much of a hydrostatic pressure. There will be the pressure which is generated inside the plant due to the water. Hydrostatic means the water which is present inside the leaf is going to create a pressure that it wants to come outside. So that hydrostatic pressure which is generated in the leaf causes the droplets, or you can say causes the water vapor to condense to form into droplets. It is given out by directly on the veins के tip में से वो बाहर निकल रहा है, इसलिए margins of the leaves से it is giving out this particular water. Special pore bearing structures called hydrothots are present in the margins of the leaves to allow this extrudation. So guttation can be observed in many plants and is quite common in banana, nasturtium and strawberry. So you can see that hydrothots are present in the margins of the leaves, and this hydrothots are going to give out this kind of guttation of water giving out, that is the guttation which is observed in many plants such as the banana, nasturtium and the strawberry. Okay, I just missed out one small part which was upper part. I thought it is connected that way, but it is not that way. It is the upper part is separate and the lower part is separate. So yeah, we'll just read that out. That there is transpiration affects climate. Now you can see that we just saw that transpiration was causing the cooling. Transpiration also causing the distribution of the minerals and all. Now there is another important thing what the transpiration does, and that is the effect. It affects the climate. The transpiration affects the climate also. How does it affect the climate? Let's see. It has been shown experimentally that plants give out large quantity of water during transpiration. So yeah, it has been experimentally proved that plants are going to give out a huge amount of water during transpiration. And this you'll be surprised to note when you read further, you'll be really surprised to note with the quantity of water which a plant would be giving out on a daily basis. A full-grown single sunflower plant is estimated to lose about half a liter of water per day in the form of water vapor. You can imagine just a small plant of the sunflower. One small plant of sunflower gives out by evaporation, by transpiration as half a liter of water. Okay. Second, A single maize plant loses 2 liters of water per day. So a maize plant, that is also not too big enough. It's only a small plant that is also going to take away 2 liters of water on daily basis. So it gives out 2 liters of water on daily basis. Third is, an apple tree may lose about 30 liters of water per day. In one day, apple tree loses 30 liters of water. You can imagine the amount of water would be given out by the apple tree. 30 liters of water in a day. And now you can understand very clearly, when it is giving out such a huge quantity of water by transpiration, you can automatically come to know that the atmosphere will automatically get more moist and will automatically become much more cooler. So it gives a cooling sensation automatically because of the presence of the moisture from the plant. So these figures give an idea of the huge quantities of water released in the atmosphere by vast stretches of fields and particularly forests. Thus, transpiration increases the moisture in the atmosphere and brings rain. So yes, they are the rain-bearing kind of the plants. They are the one which are going to cause the rains to take place, or they are going to one which is going to give out moisture and give out a huge amount of water to the atmosphere. In this way, transpiration from plants affects climate. Forests contribute in bringing rain. Transpiration is the secret behind it. So yeah, transpiration is the secret behind the forest bringing out more and more amount of rainfalls, and that is why we keep on telling that we should adapt afforestation, and we should stop deforestation, because the deforestation will lead to less amount of rainfall, and hence it will be much more drier weathers and loss of and lack of water also. The next thing is bleeding. So we just saw guttation also. Guttation was from the margins of the leaves. So when the atmospheric pressure is due to the humidity is higher, and when the humidity is so much that it is not allowing the transpiration to take place, then there will be hydrostatic pressure generated in the leaves, which is going to condense the water vapor and convert it into water droplets, given out from the tip of the veins of the leaf, which is from the margins of the leaf. You get droplets of water. The next is bleeding. This happens only due to injury. The plant sap escapes or bleeds from the ruptured or cut surface of the plant. So if at all there is a cut, or you can see many times it happens that you plug a branch or plug a particular leaf also, you will find a white colored milky thing oozing out from it. So that is nothing but the bleeding. So yeah, it is the excess amount of the water coming out from there. So the root pressure generated by the plant assists in bleeding, and that's why we are having this particular kind of bleeding taking place in plants due to any kind of injury, or where the plant sap escapes out from the plant. So summing it up, is given by this particular figure over here. There is a figure which sums up the whole thing. It sums up not only this chapter but also sums up the earlier chapter of absorption, because it starts with the roots and ends up with the transpiration. So we sum it up that figure schematically represents most of the phenomena related to the intake and loss of water in the plant through transpiration. So we start with the lower part, that is, in the roots, there are two things which is going to take place. One is imbibition and the osmosis taking place from the root hair. And from the root hair, the water enters into the cortex, and then from the cortex, it enters into the xylem. And from the xylem, it is going to go upwards. And when it goes upwards, there is going to be three things which is going to help in the upward movement of the that is the cohesive force, the root pressure, and the capillary action. So these are the three things which is helping the plant well sap to go upwards. And then there is a transpiration pull on the top part. So here on the other side, whatever is the lower part, which are lenticels, the old branches and all which are there, they will be having lenticels through which the lenticular transpiration is going to take place to the medullary ray and the cortex. And the mass of the mass movement of the water is going to take place to the xylem and the xylem vessels and the tracheas, and it goes into the midrib, and where the xylem is going to end up into the leaf, where the upper part is the cuticular transpiration taking place, the middle part is the palisade, parenchyma and the xylem, and the spongy mesophyll has got the water molecules in the form of water vapor, and the intercellular spaces are there, and then there is the stomatal transpiration in the bottom. So and finally is in case of too much pressure there is guttation. So all this is being explained very well in the last kind of the figure, which is the diagrammatical representation of the path of water through the plant and the various physical forces which are responsible for the movement within the loss of water outside. And finally is the difference between transpiration and guttation. Transpiration is the water is lost in the form of vapors, whereas guttation, water is lost in the form of water droplets. Transpiration, pure water only changes into vapors. Guttation, water lost contains minerals in solution. Transpiration, water vapor is lost through stomata, lenticels and cuticles, whereas guttation, water is lost through pores, that is hydrothoids, found on the ends of the veins of the leaves. Transpiration may lead to loss of turgidity in the leaf cells to cause wilting. No such effect in turgidity of the leaf in case of guttation. Transpiration, stomatal transpiration is regulated by guard cells, where opening of the hydrothoid is not regulated, it is by its own, it's always open. Transpiration, it occurs in the presence of sunlight, whereas guttation occurs only in the early mornings or nights. Transpiration cools the plant body. There is no such effect on the plant by guttation. And finally, transpiration occurs during dry condition, whereas guttation occurs during humid condition. So this was the differentiation between transpiration and guttation, and this also brings us to the end of the chapter. So that was the chapter transpiration for you. Quite an easy chapter. You can go through this thing. Some important points over here will be the different kinds of transpiration, the factors affecting the transpiration, the adaptation what the plants have got during transpiration, the significance of transpiration, types of transpiration of course, and of course the initial part about the experimentation part, that is about the different experiments of transpiration, and most important, asked many times, is the potometer. The Gannong's potometer is asked many times in many of the papers, so that is again a very important part of the chapter. So yeah, that comes up to we come to the end of the chapter transpiration.